think about that for a minute. Kind of forgot my name. And I'm from A Plus Racing. I have that written down somewhere. But I got a lot of requests for how do you take the cylinder head off and on in the car. I'm going to do it. I don't like doing it because it's a lot of work. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I take the cylinder head off in the car. So this particular car right here, it does have some modifications. So some of the modifications are that I'm going to have to deal with is that I've got, you know, the warning light, coolant temp sensors here and on the upper hose that I'm going to have to deal with. So one down here and one over there. Now I'll show you, you'll see those as we get closer. I already went ahead and did a compression test on this engine. It's got a dead hole. I could tell it was way down on power and it wasn't running right. We swapped out the plug wire, we put another plug in there, and it still had a problem with the number 4 cylinder. Went ahead and did a compression test, and I already covered that video. 180, 180, 120, and 60, okay? So if you remember, I told you anything over 150 is good. So we got 2 of them that are below 150. So I went ahead and did a wet test on them, which means that I poured a little bit of oil in the cylinder, and then I redid the compression test, and it only came up about 10 pounds. So that tells me it's not a problem with the rings. The problem is with the head. It's with the valves. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this head off and then send it to the machine shop and then have them fix whatever problems are with the valve, and then we'll put it back on. I probably could do this faster if I pulled the engine out and then just did it on the floor. I could probably knock it out in I mean, I've had this engine out in under 30 minutes, so probably take me an hour to get the head off the car, but I have had a lot of requests about how do I get the head off the car in the car, and their reasoning is because they don't have a lot of room. Okay, so you know who you are. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do it the hard way so that I can bring that information to you on how I get the head off, and also, too, more importantly, how I put it back on. Because I actually make a special tool that I will show you in the upcoming videos on putting the head back on correctly in the car. Special tool for the subscribers, all right? Okay, so that's for the introduction. So I already have the plugs out of it. The plug wires are unplugged right here. I unplugged the cam angle sensor when I did the compression test so that I didn't have spark traveling through here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and start taking it apart. So usually what I do with the kids in the class is I put one kid on this side and one kid on that side and one kid in the middle, and this guy takes everything apart up here, this one takes everything apart over here, this one takes part over here. But I'm going to wing this thing solo, so I'm going to go ahead and do it on my own. So I'm going to go ahead and start off on this side over here, all right? So I'm going to try to do it to where I don't have to switch tools often, okay? Now, this is an NB1, so this is like a 99 2000. So if you're doing a 1.6 or an NA 1.8, slight differences on this side, but for the majority, it's all pretty much the same, okay? Something unique about the NBs is that this wiring harness right here is going to go wrap around like this, and the whole thing is going to come off in one big piece, and it's going to be laying off over here. So the NBs do that, the NAs do not, all right? So I guess let's get dirty. All right, here we go. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is come on over here, look over my shoulders. I want to disconnect the throttle cable. I do not disconnect it right here. I see people doing that. That's actually a pretty important adjustment that if you mess with this, I want you to notice that there's a lot of play here, but yet when I step on the gas, it'll still go all wide open throttle. But what happens when people undo it here and slide it out, they screw up the adjustment here, and if you make this too tight, when you step on the gas wide open throttle, this whole thing pops off the bracket, or sometimes it even bends and breaks it. So I don't undo them here. I undo the two 10 millimeters right here, okay? If I ever do, and I buy cars where this is off, then they took it apart here instead of here, then I make sure that I adjusted that. It still goes wide open throttle from the inside of the car, but there's play here. You can see that there's plenty of play right here so that it doesn't bury it and then it pops it off here or bends or breaks the bracket, okay? All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab 10mm wrench and I'm gonna take those 2 bolts off. And then I like to get in the habit of putting the bolts back where they came from. And if I don't do that, then what I'll do is I'll use a cup. So I like to have war wonton soup at the local Chinese restaurant, and they serve it in these cups. And these little cups work great for, you know, small bolts and stuff like that that I need to hang on to. All right, so I'm going to take this one off. And you know, this is probably going to be the most difficult video that we've filmed so far, just for the fact that it's a lot of steps. It's not just something that, you know, it's just a few steps. So it's going to be a little bit time consuming and maybe not the easiest to video, because sometimes some of the stuff is hard to get to. All right. A 1.6 is a little easier. And also too, I don't have power steering or air conditioning on these. So if you've got a autocross car that still has power steering and AC, some things could get in the way. So I think that some of the power steering bracket might be bolted to the head. The 1.8s also have an engine oil cooler, and we're going to have to deal with one of the hoses. It's in the back of the engine, and it's very hard to get to, but we'll manage. Okay, so I got those off now, and this just comes off like that. A good thing to do, especially if you're a newbie, is to just put the bolts back on after you got them off. Okay, so that not only do you not lose them, but then you're not going to end up with a whole pile full of bolts in here and go, oh my gosh, what goes where? Okay, so I just thread them back on like that. All right, on this side too, there's also a vacuum line right here that goes. And sometimes, you know, it might be a good idea for you to take a picture of this, of what's going on, so that you remember where the vacuum lines go. I've done so many of these, I know where they go. All right, so there's one there, there's one right here. So now I've got these 2 vacuum lines undone. I'm going to have to undo this fuel line right here. And it is going to require a special tool. I might be able, sometimes I can get them by squeezing this little white clip. Nah, I'm gonna have to get a special tool. So I'll get the special tool. I got it in the truck. So I'm gonna set that aside. I've got my main ground cable right here. So that's gonna come off. And I think I'm gonna switch to electric. Put this back on there. Okay, this one we'll tuck away back in here. Okay, I need to take this tube off. Loosen it there. We can pull this PVC pipe tube off from either end. Okay, like that. And I also like to make sure that I keep all of the parts with the car. So I'm going to go ahead and put this inside the car, because otherwise we lose them. All right, so now that exposes this big harness right here, okay? So this is my coolant temp warning light, all right? And so I can just disconnect that one from there. And it looks like it's connected right here with this zip tie, so I'll go ahead and take that off. And this is my own doing. This is not factory. Okay, so that one comes off there, that comes off there. Okay, now it's a matter of unplugging these wires. So I have my cam angle sensor, or crankshaft positioning sensor over here. And so I'm gonna go ahead and unplug it. And anytime you're dealing with a connector, it's usually a little push you push it and then wiggle it and it comes out. Okay, so I got that one. And I'm gonna start back over here to my, this is my intake air temperature sensor. And then the more that I could save, if you look at this right here, I want you to get in really close. If you look at this right here on my side, there you go. It's got a little, like a little arrow. So if I push it in, and I can save it to where I don't break them, okay? I like to do that so that when I go back together, you can't even really tell that I even was in there because it still goes back right back in the factory hole. So I try to do that every chance I can. All right. Okay. So I got this. I'm working it off. Okay, so now I got a bunch of wires right here. One of them is my knock sensor. So I push the button and I try to unplug it. I don't pull the wires because I don't want to rip the wires out of the connector. Okay, and sometimes these are not always easiest things to come apart. Like this one. It's on there. Let's squeeze this out of here. Give me a little more room. You'll notice on this particular wiring harness, and I'll show you right here in a second. Let me get all this fluid out of here. Okay, so I have this connector kind of tied off. That actually is a power steering connector that would have gone to the power steering pump as a sensor that when you lock the steering wheel all the way over, that it will raise the idle up a little bit. Okay. Well, we broke the wire, so we'll have to fix that one. Okay. Then we have these ones down here. Okay, I want that one. Okay. See that one. Okay, we got that one off. All right. And then our IAC right here, this here controls the idle. So if your idle's all screwed up, you could have a dirty IAC. This is the throttle positioning sensor right here. And so I push the button, unplug it. And like I said, this whole thing is gonna come off in one piece. PCV valve, positive crankshaft ventilation. That should just pop right off here. Boy, there it goes. Okay. Have these. Take them back there. All right, let me get to your side. And this here is our, I'll take it. This here is our vacuum line for the power booster. Okay. Okay, and it comes off like that. And then we have the EGR valve right here. So we'll unplug that. Okay. And then this is our O2 sensor. So unplug that one. And I think that, oh, we got one more. This is probably the downstream or upstream O2. Okay, so there's the wiring loom for that. All right, and I got one more here on my EGR valve. Okay, we got that one. All right, so if you can look back here, you can see that I have this entire harness undone. Now this wiring harness that you see right here, okay, you can see it right there, that stays with the head. I will take off the coil here and I'll have to unplug it, but that is part of the harness that goes to the head. So let me do that right now, and I need a 12mm branch, I believe. Okay. That baby's on there. Okay. So the coil pack is held on with two 12s normally, one on each side. So I'm just doing the one here, then I'll go to the other side and take the coil pack up on that side. I don't know what's going on here. This engine actually came from a wrecking yard, so I've never had this engine apart. But it was running good. It was in the 25 hour, but man, that 25 hour really took a toll on this poor car. So. We're getting close. Let me crack this one loose. Okay. Maybe that'll make this one come off easier. There we go. On this coil pack, another secret is that one of the holes is blind. So if you notice right here, if you can get in tight, if you notice right here, the bolt thread's in the inside here. It can't go anywhere. On this one, you can see that it has an exit hole right here. So this is not a blind hole, this is a blind hole. If you get these bolts mixed up, sometimes one of them's longer than the other, and you get them put in the wrong place, the longer one's supposed to go on this side. The shorter one is supposed to go on the driver's side. If you put the bolts in backwards, then what it does is it breaks a piece of the metal off underneath this valve cover, and the piece of metal falls into the valve train. So don't ask me how I know. It was an ugly story. But so be careful about don't put too long of a bolt on this side, or it's going to end up breaking the valve cover and possibly just destroying your cylinder head by dropping that piece of metal inside of there. Okay, so this is a fairly short bolt holding the coil pack on. All right, so we can set this off like that. All right, so these are my two bolts for my coil pack. I'm gonna go ahead and put them in my bucket. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the valve cover off next. Comes off pretty easy. I'm gonna go ahead and take the cam angle sensor off, just for the fact that I don't want to damage the end of my sensor. It sits pretty close to the gear. All right, let's go ahead and loosen up the valve cover bolts. And that's going to help me get to the hose and the other parts I need to get in the back of the head. And I'll try to do the best I can on zooming in. You don't have to take these off. Those actually don't really go anywhere. Okay. So I'm going to set this aside. Like that. All right. Okay, so here's my coil pack. It's got two wires. One of them has a blue little piece of tape on it, like that. The blue tape goes on the coil pack on the passenger side. These can go either way, but if you put them on wrong, it won't start. Okay, and usually what I do is I get in a little groove here, and then I twist it, and I just push the button, and a lot of times it helps pop it right off, like that. Okay, so try to get it to where you can see it. Here's the little button. I'm going to push down on it, and then I'm just going to twist it up. You can see it came off. Okay, now I can remove my coil pack. Set that aside. Okay, so as I'm looking back here, this is my ECT, but that comes off with part of the head, so I don't have to worry about that. But down underneath here, there's a hose, okay? That's really hard to get to. and I'm going to need to get to it. So I'm going to get to it a little bit later when I have a little bit more time to get it fished out of there and show it to you, okay? The other thing I could do too is I could leave it and then loosen up the head, pull the head forward a little bit, and then undo it when I have more room. And I'll probably try to just do it that way. Okay, so I can come back here to the front of the engine, and I'm gonna need to take this off, this cover. Bottom down here, like that. All right, I can get this, can go move out of the way. We're gonna have to fix because it broke. All right, so I got that cover off. Okay. This hose clamp has to come off. Now, I did drain the water. I know, I messed you guys up. On the bottom of this radiator, there's a plug, and I took the plug out, and I already drained the water from the system. So you want to drain that prior. And then I need to take off this hose, like that one, and then it looks like that one can stay on. All right, so we'll take off this one. Make sure it's clear. Take this out of the way. All right. I don't have to take the radiator off if I don't want to. What I'm probably going to do though is take this this hose off just to give me a little bit more room. I don't have to take it all the way off, but could just give me a little more room where it's not going to be, I'm not going to have it so tight in here. Okay. Set that there. Okay, that looks good. I don't have to take the lower hose off. This all looks good. This is part of the engine. I do have a hose right here. This hose goes to the oil cooler. Only 1.8s have this. And so I need to take this hose off. I leave the intake attached to the engine until I have the engine. I take that intake off after the head's pulled off. Okay, so I got that one off. All right, I'm going to need to take these off. Let me see if I can. At least one of them. Okay. All right. So this is going to disconnect the timing belt. Okay. Take that off. Start like that. Okay. This goes on here. That. Okay. For kicks and grins, I'm probably going to take the air box out, just so it just gives me a little bit more room. So it's just a 12 millimeter. Okay. That one. Off. Okay, this pull one here. This one went here. This here, these are rubber worms. So it means that the car has rubber worms. This is the poop from the rubber. No, I just missed pieces of rubber tire from the racetrack. But I had you going there for a little bit. You were believing in the rubber worms. All right, can't get to that one. We'll have to switch to a 3/8 ratchet or a wrench. Where's my wrench? So on this side, I'm going to go ahead and pull the exhaust off from the head. Should be able to get to this with it. If I can get my back from this ratchet. And it's kind of important that you put these heat shields back on, just for the fact that it keeps a lot of hot air from getting sucked into the air cleaner, and that will definitely rob you horsepower. Make sure that we put these back on. And I know that sometimes these bolts break off. And there's sometimes some of them have quite a few of them. Seems like the NBs have more than the NAs. I see one's missing. Looks like it's missing the bottom shield also. Okay. All right. So on this vehicle here, if you notice right here, see how this is long, straight, and narrow? This is a non-California exhaust manifold. If this was a California exhaust manifold, it would have a big round canister right here that would be the catalytic converter. Okay, so what I need to undo on this side is I need to undo all of these manifold bolts, including the hidden one in here. So there's like 4 up here, and I think there's 5 on the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and undo those because sometimes they're kind of difficult. You can spray them with a little bit of WD-40, let them sit for a little bit, and that'll help get them off. And there's one in here. And so we're gonna let those sit for a minute, and then we're gonna come back and I'll have the exhaust manifold off and we'll have that set aside. And then we're getting pretty close. Be back in a couple minutes. Okay, I'm back at you. We got all of the exhaust bolts off of here, including the hidden one. I wanna show you the EGR tube right here. See that? It's a 7/8 and you have to loosen up that one too. When I pulled back on the intake manifold, I noticed that the whole thing came off and I don't have to take that off. The reason why is because it's broke off the EGR valve on the other side. So must have had an exhaust leak, but that thing broke, and so we're gonna have to replace that tube. So I got lucky. Otherwise, I sprayed it with WD-40. I even cracked it loose, and you would have to take that off, okay? So the exhaust is out of the way. I think we got everything ready to go, except I need to take off the head bolts. So that is a 12mm 12-point. So I have one here. And I need my impact gun. And so I have a 12mm 12-point, and I'm going to take the head bolts off. So the head bolts are in here. So you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I know that we're going to still have to take off the hose in the back. So let me get a helper here, and we'll see if we can pop the head out and move the head forward. Katie, come on. I got a helper lined up.
You want here on this side?
Yep.
Okay, Katie over here.
I want to pick the head up if we can, and then drag it forward so I can get to a cooler line that's back here, okay? So let's see if we can rock it and come up off of there. Okay. But I think we're clear. So come off. All right. So you grab your side. Pick it up. And then
It's stuck up there.
it's okay. There we go. All right. Let's come back here. Let's see. So we go on that side. Thanks, Katie, for the help. We might need you back here in a minute. Okay, so here's that hose right here. get it where you can see it. Okay, so it is right here. So I'm going to undo the hose clamp. I know, it's kind of a pain to get to. That's why it's so much easier when the head is the whole engine's out. So I'm going to go ahead and pry this hose off like that. And I think that's it. All right.
What about this hose right here?
Heater hose? Okay.
Heater hose.
I'll do that one. Okay, that one came off. All right, Katie, why don't you get on the other side?
Musical sides here.
And just go ahead and we're going to pick it up. Okay, you got it? See anything else attached?
Your belt's
that
hung
fuel
up.
line.
Your belt's hung up on this hose right here.
And I got to get the fuel line, the special tools. So let's just hang on 1 second right here. You guys admire the head coming off, and I'm going to grab the special
Okay.
tool.
Undo this hose clamp right there, and then the timing belt will come out. So it's like a 5/16 probably. Or screwdriver. Right here.
I bought a new style. I want to try this out. So here it is right here. And I believe it's a small one. I'm going to stick that in there. Okay. There it goes. Hey, on the end, the NAs, when you undo the fuel line, take the gas cap off. If you take the gas cap off, gas won't come pumping out of this. Otherwise, the gas pushes its way through. I can see gas is leaking out of this one. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the gas cap. And that usually stops it. Okay. So I got the gas cap off. That should stop it. And I think that we should be able to
Just
just...
a second. She's got a hose that's got the timing belt.
I thought I took the hose off.
Nah, it got caught. See, look, that hose right there.
Oh,
that
that
hose.
one?
Yep.
Okay. So back up so we can videotape it.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to take this one here off. It's kind of stuck on there. So what I do is I just grab it with a pair of pliers, twist it, and then it should come right off. There it goes. Okay. Are we ready?
Yep.
All right.
You got it, Katie?
That's that, Katie. Are we clear?
Clear.
We got a little clip here. One of those little clips I told you about earlier. I don't want to break it. I like to reuse those. There it goes. All right. Okay. And we'll just set it right here. Okay. And then the problem was number 4 cylinder. I just want to see if we can see a burnt valve or something. So this is it right here. I don't see a burnt valve or anything. You get the light?
They're all open now.
Yeah, maybe they're bent.
They're all open, aren't they?
Yeah.
Exhaust and intake at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. So that must be where our problem's at. So we'll have to take a look at that. Could be a stuck valve. All right, and we can look at the pistons. Let's take a look up here. So this is it right here. This worries me a little bit when I see shininess on the edge, because sometimes that can also mean that it has a bad rod bearing. I don't think this one did. It wasn't knocking or making any noises or anything. It just ran like crap. But we'll have to kind of take a closer look at that. Head gasket looks like it was okay, not warped. So we'll send that head out and have it looked at. We're gonna have to strip it. So we'll take the intake manifold off of it, the other cam gear, and then we'll send out the machine shop. Okay, I brought you the video on how to take the head off in the car. I told you it's not hard, but it's a lot of steps, okay? And so I'll conclude this video up, and then we'll come back at you when we have the head all resurfaced and ready to go, and I'll show you how to put it all back together. Thanks for sticking with me. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And then if you haven't subscribed yet, then you should go ahead and hit subscribing. So let's get on it and get your car up there on the front row. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you at the racetrack. Bye now.